嫌なのに何でも言うこと聞くって違くない？てか、自分のために絶対しちゃダメでしょ。自分の気持ちは自分のために言わなきゃダメだよ。
Marin Kitagawa is many things. Magnetic, driven, funny, passionate, and overflowing with energy for her dedicated interests. She's also bold and unafraid to showcase exactly who she is. To say she simply stands out would be an understatement because her essence is that unmistakable and without a doubt impossible not to notice. If I had to bet on one thing anyone who encountered her won't forget, it's the irrefutable truth that Marin will always be Marin. But while it's undeniable that being so unapologetically herself is a blast to watch, what really makes her shine and ultimately lifts her up to being such a beloved person is how her free-spirited attitude reflects upon those around her. This all stems from what I can only describe as an honest bliss for life and experiences that Marin naturally has. Whether it's cosplay, food, or just exploring the world around her, she approaches everything with the kind of wonder that radiates genuine curiosity and appreciation for what's in front of her. Now, a lot of that may be directed to what she specifically likes, but even when encountering hobbies that aren't her own, like Gojo's Hina doll, her responses remain filled with positivity that almost never feels forced.
めっちゃ綺麗じゃん。目、キラキラしてる。
What's incredible about the way Marin manages these feelings is how willing she is to share them. She'll get up in your face, ask you questions, and unabashedly go on long monologues as she takes you on a journey to see life through her own eyes. It can be a lot to handle if you don't already know her, but in a lot of ways, this specific trait is what sets her apart. People don't typically express the range of emotions they have for their special interests the way Marin does. Even more uncommon is someone whose enthusiasm about it is so contagious, it envelops onlookers in a belief that it's okay to be themselves as well. Gojo's character arc throughout My Dress Up Darling is largely shaped by this. He envied the way Marin lived in a world that accepted her for who she was, but what struck him most was how naturally she made space for others to do the same. This inclusiveness she embodies makes being around her so comfortable that it changed not only how he looked at himself, but how he looked at people as a whole.
俺、のんちゃんにしか気持ち悪いって言われてないよな。
Strikingly, the very first moment we truly get to learn about Marin centers on this belief that people shouldn't belittle the things other people care about. It's not revealed through some grand speech or dramatic gesture, but in an ordinary everyday interaction that quietly defines who she is.
話すきっかけ作ろうとしたんだろうね。
ねえねえ、それなんとかってアニメのやつ？超オタクじゃん。ないわ。
Now, if this happened to you, how would you react? Would you A, laugh it off and act like nothing happened? Or B, call him out on his rude behavior and walk away?
おめえがねえわ。つって、マリン秒で帰った。マジで？瞬殺じゃん。
If you chose A, I'd probably say you have a great deal of patience when it comes to handling other people's nastier tendencies. If you chose B, I'd like to think it's because you have enough self-respect to not compromise with someone who casually throws an insult like that.
ああいう男無理。てか、じゃら付けしてる時点で好きだってわかんだしさ。人の好きなものバカにすんなよってなるでしょ。それな。
When I first read this scene in the manga, it stood out to me not because it was a pretty girl who happened to be an otaku defending the same kind of stuff the audience likes, but because it put emphasis on someone who believed it wasn't right to ridicule the things people care about. This may be considered a common belief, but as we get to learn more about Marin, it takes on a whole new meaning because of how much she clearly values her own identity. To her, carrying anime merch was never a fashion statement. Plastering her walls with decorations weren't just things she did on a whim, and openly sharing her feelings aren't just tactics to get the viewer to self-relate. They're Marin's way of honoring who she is and the characters in these stories she grew to hold dear. So when someone tries to belittle what she cares about, her response isn't just involuntary defense, it's staying true to who she is. Beautifully, that conviction doesn't stop with her, it extends outward, shaping how she treats the people around her. And nowhere is this clearer than in her interactions with Amane, whose story adds an even deeper layer to what all of this means. Amane's story is short, but it was packed with the difficulties that can arise from being seen as different. Sometimes it's subtle comments about appearance or voice. Other times it's direct judgment and ridicule for not fitting into rigid expectations. For Amane, these pressures cut deep. He never fit into the mold of what people thought a man should be, and over time, that disconnect turned into self-loathing. Cosplaying, though, is what changed that for him. It gave him confidence when he didn't have it, lessened the anxiety he had around others, and gradually gave him the opportunity to love himself through being someone else. Listening to him describe how it reshaped his life in this manner was like hearing a weight finally lift off his shoulders. Unfortunately, even when someone finds a space or hobby that gives them a breath of relief or freedom, those same pressures don't magically disappear. In fact, it's much easier for someone to strike them where it hurts.
男がこんなヒラヒラした服持ってるわけないでしょ。
女装してってただ趣味で着てるだけで。
何考えてんの？やめてよそんな。捨てて、気持ち悪いから。
The problem with people like Amane's ex-girlfriend who say hurtful things like this is that they don't understand or even try to understand why people hold what they do so dear. If they took even a second to think about your feelings and what that something meant to you, then no one would have had to be harmed in the first place. In light of this stark reality, what I love about My Dress Up Darling is that it vehemently believes in this simple fact and uses Marin as a vehicle to illustrate it in a way that perfectly captures what she stands for as a person. As a result, her response to Amane's story isn't just surface level sympathy, it's raw, heartfelt empathy that could only be born from someone who unequivocally appreciates the things that give their life meaning.
大事だって、待ってるって見ればわかるのに。なんで捨てろとか簡単に言えんのって。絶対許せないんですけど。
Marin, and more broadly, the story of My Dress Up Darling negates the idea that being yourself is wrong. Not only is that a betrayal of who you are, but to her, it's also a tragedy that can sever a person's connection with their own happiness. That's why she champions herself, and most of all, others in their pursuit of whatever it is that brings them joy. This is evident in many of Marin's own personal friendships, as well as in her interactions with someone she just met in Amane. By highlighting those constant acts of acceptance, the story makes her deep conviction about staying true to yourself inseparable from its very core, embodying the heart of what it wants to say. Relating with that message on a personal level is one thing, but it's important to emphasize how my admiration is founded on respect. I've never believed in tearing people down for the things that make them happy. Unless it's something actively harmful, why judge when it only hurts and drives people to hide parts of themselves? Suffice to say, people's words do carry heavy weight in the minds of who you say them to, especially when faced with the delicate values people hold. That's why I feel nothing but respect for people like Marin when they hold themselves and others to this very standard. It wholeheartedly makes a difference in the world, and passively carries the ability to undo years of doubt that stemmed almost entirely from fear of judgment. In the space that relief creates, something even greater comes into focus. The truth that not everyone is going to look at you differently because of who you are or what you love.
僕が女装って分かっても誰も気持ち悪いなんて言わなかった。一度言われただけでみんなが同じことを言うなんて限らないのに、決めつけて良くないよね。
If I had to pick one word for Marin Kitagawa, it's definitely real. She wears her emotions on her sleeve, she's not afraid to say what's on her mind, she just does it. That's why so many of the quote ecchi scenes in this anime even happen. Her extreme sincerity somehow manages to override any hesitation, letting her fully focus on her goal and be dead set on this one thought. We're here to do this thing. Whether it's taking measurements or doing a cosplay shoot, nothing else matters. That's what's on her mind, and she's enjoying it so much that she's completely at ease with being in a skimpy outfit or having some guy take pictures of her in revealing poses. Sure, sometimes she realizes it, but even that gets overshadowed when faced with how serious she actually is about portraying the character she wants to be. What's funny about people not understanding this is that Marin explicitly says this very thing all the time.
私の場合、好きだからイメージ壊したくない的な。コスするならできるだけ近づけたいし、そんな感じなんですよね。
When it comes down to it, Marin's honesty is as real as it gets. Put that together with her passion, fun energy, along with her appreciation for others and how that all ties to the central theme of being comfortable with yourself in this story, and you'll find it makes for one of the highest quality viewing experiences any romantic comedy has had in the last 10 years. Trust me, I actually went back and looked. Yet somehow, despite all of that, she doesn't get the recognition she deserves. Mostly because of the reputation this anime gets for fan service. Which, to be fair, I do understand on some level. But I also think there's a line people are clearly ignoring when going so far as to label my dress-up darling, quote, gooner bait. And as I've said to others before, I'll say it again. That couldn't be farther from the truth. People are selling this anime short, and they're selling Marin short by regurgitating the false notion that she's just there to feed some male fantasy. If anything, I'd argue believing that is objectifying in itself because it reduces Marin to nothing more than an object when she's clearly shown to be so much more. That's the irony here. Marin experiences this very kind of misjudgment firsthand in the story. Shinju, for example, assumed things about her before even giving her a chance and later felt guilty for it.
私、この子のこと何も知らないのに、どうせ本気でコスしてないって決めつけてた。全然嫌な女じゃなかった。ごめんなさい。
In the same way, it's easy for viewers to fixate on the fan service, seeing it as a defining feature. But to be very clear, while those moments do occur, they're just that, moments. When I think about my dress-up darling, none of that even crosses my mind. Instead, I remember all of the other great events that do happen, like the beach scene and how it's one of the best displays of how a singular day with someone can be so meaningful. Or maybe the fireworks during season 1's finale and how it was a beautiful representation of someone coming out of their shell to see something unforgettable. But one of my personal favorites is the early nod to the narrative's beating heart when Marin took a moment to reflect on the cosplay event they attended and said this.
私、基本趣味だったり、何でもいいんだけど、好きなことして楽しんでる人めっちゃ好き。なんかキラキラしてるじゃん。
Those are the meaningful moments I look to when I think about my dress-up darling. That's what makes up the story. Not the off chance an ecchi scene happens in a chapter or an episode. I assure you that does not matter. But if you still think that's what defines this anime, let's all take a deep breath and try one more time to see the beauty behind those misconceptions through a character whose very motto is to accept and love others exactly as they are.